I would also like to point out that we do actually have men in the pack. They don't appear very often, but we do have a few. They're there somewhere. Before anyone's like, do we ever have any men? And we do.
I'm surprised Darren didn't turn up with the shoes.
I was going to say, if Jamie gets the shoes out again or puts that picture back up, Darren will appear like that. It's like, hi.
It's like Beetlejuice.
Yep. Yeah, you say anything, innuendos, or you say anything sexual more than 3 times and Darren will appear on a call. That's how this works. Okay, so the way that this is going to work, basically, I don't have any slides or anything. This is more workshop based than me, like the typical training, shall we say, like me telling you kind of what to do, because it's much easier for this, I think, for me to kind of just walk you through how I do things rather than, and then obviously you can take it away and adapt it to yourself rather than adding in extra versions of exactly the same thing over and over in the sales strategy. But essentially all this is doing is taking those core things from the sales strategy modules and the template documents, etc., and using them to create yourself a plan. Okay, so all I have, I'm just going to do it on a Word, like, well, I say a Word document, a Google Doc, because it's easier, and then just show you how I essentially brain dump myself a 3, a 6, and a 12-month plan. Right? Does that sound all right, everybody? Yeah. Feel free to ask questions in the chat as we're going, because otherwise this could literally take 10 minutes. I mean, sometimes it takes me 10, 15 minutes, other times it takes me hours because I start overthinking. But hopefully with you guys here, we'll reduce the overthinking, which would be quite nice. So let me share my screen. I've got far too many things open. Where am I? That one. Sure. 2 seconds. Cool. That's all right. I can still see what I'm doing. Can you see my screen? I always ask the same question over and over again. Can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen? The 2 constant questions. Okay, so the way that we do this, or the way that I do this, is I have essentially like 4 questions that I ask myself. So I've got my little, I would say little black book, but it's a little blue book, so we'll go with blue. Where are we? There we go. Right. No, that's the wrong page. Another training. So I have my little notes, which I will write out and I will put alongside this video so that you can see it. But essentially, this is one of the most frequently asked things that I get when it comes to trainings, and probably the thing that I do the most with one-to-one clients is creating that strategy, usually for the next 3 months. So I say to everybody that you should have some form of 12-month strategy, not necessarily because we need to think in 12-month blocks, but if you're anything like me, if my brain doesn't know what the long-term goal is, I can't focus on a medium or a short term. I'm constantly thinking about what's next. So I set myself a 12-month plan, but that is very loose. It's just enough for me to kind of then say, okay, I know vaguely what's going to happen, how things are going to progress. And then I break that down into a 6-month one, which is a little bit firmer. And then I work in 3-month sprints. And that is purely for me. I find that 3-month sprints work really well. Some of my clients prefer monthly sprints, because of the, like, if you're a product-based business, it might be better to work monthly rather than 2 or 3 months, because that might scare you in numbers. It's all about working out what fits with your brain to allow you to plan enough without having to kind of stress yourself too much with kind of what's going on, etc., if that makes sense. Okay, I keep letting people in. Just going to put the chat to the other side as well so that I can see it. There we go. Oh, Jesus, that's big. That's what she said. Oh, Emily's in twice. Oh, she's back. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, right. I made some notes yesterday about each of the next couple of quarters, putting things into time might helps. Yeah, exactly. I love quarterly. Quarterly works really kind of nice. Yes, Jane, if you want to create your own at the same time, that's I think it's a really good way of working. No offense, Emily, I'm just muting you. Just in case. Okay, so there are 4 questions that we need to ask ourselves when we're thinking about all of these different things, okay? And the 4 questions are, I'm going to type them. Oh, wrong one. Right, number 1, what are your offerings, okay? So what things have you got in your offering arsenal that you can utilize to bring money into your business, okay? Number 2 is, what is your capacity? We all knew that one was coming. Poor Jane's like, oh God, bloody capacity. What is your already committed time? Okay. And the big one, what is your income goal? So they are the 4 most important things when we're thinking about planning. We want to know what we've got to offer, how much time we've got to play with, what things are already in the diary that we cannot get away from, and how much money do we want to make, okay? So for each month, you then will break it down into your overall capacity, how much is already allotted and how much time you've got extra, and then work out how you want to split that time when it comes to your different offerings, okay? So we're going to start with the 12 month, okay? Because 12 months is the big long thing. So 12 month plan. So obviously we're going to do that running for, I'm going to do this ignoring the next 2 weeks. So we're going to start beginning of November because I've already kind of got my thing planned. So we're going to go November to like October next year to October 22. Okay. So in that time, the way that I start things is I think to myself, right, biggest first. We always start with the big ones. Sorry. There's going to be innuendos in this. We know how this works. So I would think to myself, here comes, exactly, Jane. It's going to appear, like, I'm surprised I have another message. You can see if he messages me, it'll pop up in the corner. Spawning humans in the diary, can't get away from it. Yeah, unfortunately, Emily, that's a pretty big commitment of another human will arrive in the universe at this time, so I need to plan that in. Right, so I start by thinking, so I've got, what are my 2 big offerings? So ignoring all of my like little bits and pieces like masterclasses, workshops, etc. The 2 biggest offerings that I have are my membership site. So I've got big offerings, got sales pack and my sales strategy for success program. And yes, I'm changing the name of it because I've been told that I'm not allowed to have the words kick-ass in ads because Facebook's boring. So I'm not allowed to use that word. So it's, yeah, so it's changing to sales strategy for success. It was just going to be sales strategy. And then somebody pointed out that having SS as an abbreviation probably wasn't the best thing to associate my business with. So we've gone for triple S instead. So for these offerings, I know that I'm going to have to do a proper launch. Okay, it's not just something, I mean, I could just post it up on my profile and be like, do you want to join? But I'm probably going to need a big launch for these. So for my big offerings, I'm going to say sales SOS, maybe. Yeah, I don't know, Jane. So these are where my 5-day challenges are going to come in. Okay, so when I'm thinking from a plan point of view, I need to think about how I'm going to get that out there. Everything else that I have is something that I can release relatively quickly that doesn't take too much promotion time. But a 5-day challenge is something that we really need to kind of consider. All right. Now, the way that I'm planning my next 12 months is that I will be doing 4 launches total. So 2 launches for the sales pack and 2 for the strategy program. So we do 2 for this, 2 for that. Nice and simple. We keep this uber simple, okay? There's no need to make this more difficult than it needs to be. So then I like a table. Let's see if I can get a table. Where's all the options? This is where you realize that I can't actually use what? 2, oh, come on. There we go. 2 by 12. Stop. So we've got October, oh wait, no, November, December, January, February, March. Don't need to read them out, you're all humans and can see what I'm doing. Right, so that's my year, okay? Now, I've just come off of a launch. So realistically, the next month is out. There's no point going straight into another launch because it's not going to work. So what I sometimes do is I will work backwards. I'll say to myself, for a launch, I need at least a month of prep, i.e. warming my audience up, trying to get them into the challenge, etc. So the earliest I could do that right now would be December for a challenge, but I'm planning mine for January. So I'll go here and I go, okay, so I'm going to have a 5-day challenge. Okay, so then that means then I'll want a break for a month, so my audience calm down, a month of promo, and then another launch. See how we get on? That's simple. Is there a better month for launches in general or a worsened one? Do you know, I'm still kind of testing, if I'm honest, Jamie. September seemed to have been the month that every man and their dog did a challenge. And that is because September is notoriously the best buying month for clients because it's after the school holidays, everyone starts to get back into the workplace, etc. And it's far enough away from Christmas that people aren't worrying about money for their Christmas, like gifts and things. If you are in the mental health space or anything that would do well for the whole new year, new me, then January is a good month, obviously, because it's the month that everybody decides that they want to do something really, really good. Yeah, Carol, apparently the first week in December is another good week for challenges, because people like to kind of treat themselves or like treat their business, like do something so that they know that they've got it for when they come back after the Christmas break. Obviously, if it gets too close to Christmas, people are starting to switch off. Realistically, the last 2 weeks in December are completely dead because most people take their foot completely off the gas in their business. We shouldn't. We should at least still be posting and putting things out there, but it can be like, oh shit. Yeah, maybe that is right, Carol, that it's like, oh my God, it's December, shit, I haven't done anything with the year. If you work in, so for businesses, I personally would avoid March. March is either a really good or a really bad month, depending on your target client. If you are dealing with big businesses, March sometimes can be a really good month because people are trying to spend their budget before the new financial year in the UK starts, or they have no money at all and they cannot commit to anything until April because that's when their new budget comes out. But if you're not working with businesses and it's kind of a person, like it's just people, please don't do that, Google. Don't know why it's decided to just log me out. That's really helpful. Luckily, my Google Chrome has everything saved, so it's not a problem. It's about finding out what works for your business and what works for your audience to try and figure it out. January's tend to be good months. September's seem to be good months. July and August, people are on holiday, it's school holiday time, so you know, don't necessarily be doing much business around then. So I'm just kind of testing things at the moment to see what works for me. But I will be working in 3-month things. So this is how I'm planning. And then I'm not really working with businesses. What was it? Oh, as it's my first time, I've set mine out around important community dates. Yeah, to be honest, that's another really good point, Natalia. If there are certain dates that fit really, really well with your business, so for Natalia, Black History Month is a fantastic month to utilise selling things, because there's a lot of hype and a lot of focus on that. So it's really good to kind of use it. Yeah, World Afro Day in September. You'll kind of know certain dates, or if you don't, use Google. Google is your friend to find really good dates and find as much research as you can. So I've seen a lot of people rush to buy in the first week of December so that they can get more tax breaks by spending money on their business. Yeah, March is the same. It can be for smaller businesses. It might be that they kind of go, oh shit, I need to spend, but it depends on the type of business and the type of person. Pretty much for everything, one person will tell you it's good and another person will tell you it's bad. So it's just about trying it and seeing what happens. What else have we got? Feb and October, Black History Month, people want to connect with their roots. Also, World Yoga Day, for instance. Yeah, Eco Dates would work. Prosperity Day. There you go. We've all got some sorts of days. Salespeople just like money, so tends to be kind of any day that we've got really. Okay, so this is the start of my 12-month plan, and if I'm brutally honest, there are only usually 2 other things that I will put in here as firm dates, and that is Black Friday and Valentine's Day. They're my 2 big kind of things that I can utilize, and there may be other dates throughout the year that work well as well, but at the moment, that's all I'm going to put in there. Okay, I'm not worrying too much about my capacity. I'm not worrying too much about my smaller offerings. This is me just thinking big. So the big balls that we've got in our court, how are we going to try and plan them? So the structure and overall changes in small businesses, what months are best to promote that? Magda, for you, I would say probably either end or beginning of the financial year or halfway through. So September or March/April. March/April. So September seems to be a good month because it is right in the middle of the financial year. So that tends to be a big one as well. Spring cleaning, yeah, that's a good one. If you are planning something in January and you are trying to go for the whole New Year, New Me, the 3rd week in January is a good week to go. And the reason for this is because most people start their New Year's resolutions and by the 21st of January, they've given up with them. So it can be a good way of then kind of going, okay, so you know all those fad diets that you tried, or that fad mental health thing that you attempted for 14 days and it did absolutely fuck all for you. Let's do it properly. Let's do something right now. Okay. But there's lots of different dates. So it's all about working it out for your business and when you want to do things. But this is how I set mine out. I just go, okay, I need some space. So Black Friday and Valentine's, I'm planning either a masterclass or a 3-day sprint sort of thing on my profile rather than something really, really big like a 5-day challenge. It's kind of like a little bit like less in time. But for this, so the month after my 5-day challenge, I usually have that as like a breather month. Okay, so it's the month where I'm not necessarily actively selling lots and lots of things. It's just it's like a month where I kind of let my audience have a little bit of a breather without me, because especially for 5-day challenges, the week before your challenge, you are hammering them with posts, and your public launch, you're hammering them with posts. So giving everybody a little bit of a breather so that they can get over that sales fatigue is really, really important. Not to be just straight, as soon as you finish one launch, jump into another thing, because people will just switch off and they will stop interacting altogether. So breather, breather. But then this is breather as well. Because Valentine's and Black Friday is literally just that week. There's no point, like promoting something for like 3 weeks beforehand, being like, oh, it's coming, because no one is going to buy from you if they know they're about to get a discount on Black Friday, or they know they're about to get a discount for something else. Have you got any tips to get over a lull? Summer is really quiet. When it comes to highs and lows, that is where planning is so important for a business. So if you know that your winter months are going to be really, really busy and summer is going to be quieter, then as boring as this sounds, it's where your money planning comes into play, because it's making sure that you might have to kind of go over your capacity during the busy months, because you know that during the summer you can have even more time off to compensate for it. Yeah, and like Natalia says, you can use that time to take a break, like a proper holiday, like have actual time off. If you have periods within your business that things are quieter. So for me, that is December usually, because a lot of businesses are either completely switched off or just want to have a break, and they're trying to get everything in before the end of the calendar year, etc. I've always been too scared to take a lot of time off. Time off is very, very important, not just for you, but also for your clients. And yes, it is difficult, but like Natalia, we were having the conversation with Natalia last night on masterminding. If you can still schedule stuff and you can still, that's where using tech really comes into its own, to schedule those posts so that you don't necessarily have to be in your business, but there's still things happening in the background. If you can move things across to a VA, for instance, once you get to the financial point that you can outsource, it's a really good way of being able to take time off but not actually be out of your business at all. Okay. So this is all I do for my 12-month plan. Okay, put this in here, and then I will also add myself in a target. So for me, it will be things like, how many people do I, like, how much do I want to bring in from this launch, okay, from that specific launch. Now then I'll go, okay, I'm going to use really broad numbers for this one. It might be that I say, okay, here I want 20 new members, and then here 20, and then this is like 30. But that's it. It's not really, really detailed. It's just a, let's see, needs to be a progression, because if you're doing something on repeat, you want to increase every time you're doing things. Sorry, I'm just keeping an eye on the chat at the same time. Because having a target in place will then allow you to focus on something and think, okay, there's money involved in it. There's a specific amount. And then for you, Jane, if you're either doing launches, or if anybody's doing launches and then you have a quieter period, that's when you then go, okay, well, that potentially then covers this month as well from an income point of view. Or if there's payment plans, for instance, then that actually is going to cover 6 months, because there's a 6-month payment plan for each of them, etc. So you can kind of think of it from that point of view, from money. And then these ones here are like, this is a promo month, promo. So that's where I will basically be working more on my business rather than in my business. So I'll be working on things like really, really getting that audience out there, like really guest experts, podcasts, going live on my wall more, really trying to drive as much traffic as possible to that 5-day challenge, so that you can increase the amount of people that you get in there. Because every time you think, if I've only got a 5% conversion rate, then I'm going to need a lot of people in there to be getting 20 members, and the same with 30 members. Okay, so this is the 12-month idea. Then what we do is we'll then go for 6 months. So this is where I basically, so we're going to go from November to 21 till April. Yes, I did need to use my fingers to figure out what 6 months from now is, for anyone that's laughing at me. Now we're going to look at things from a little bit more of a more holistic overview of like what my offerings are. Okay, so I've got my pack, I've got my program, but I also have sales mastery calls. I also have one-to-one clients. And that's as deep as I'm going to go for 6 months. I'm not going to think too much about anything else. And I'll just do exactly the same thing again. Is take another, sorry, it was my husband asking me when I was coming back from London. I'm like, I'm not in London, I'm in the office. I think he means next month. So 6 months, exactly the same as last time. Can't think what the months are. Now this is where I start to get a little bit more detailed, but not too detailed. This is more me going, okay, so I've got a 5-day challenge in here and I've got another one in here. And this is my Black Friday and Valentine's. So I'm just moving it across. So this is where I start to think of how much time I have outside of those challenges and things for other stuff. So I need to think about my committed people. So at the moment for me, I have, actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this and do this as a 3 month to start with. And then you can see how it basically works on a smaller scale. And then basically the 6 month is just working out like the middle ground, if that makes sense. Okay. So these are my offerings. We're going to go back to basics. So the different offerings that I've got, sorry, I appreciate this is a bit kind of sporadic, but I'm trying to, this is how I work. So unfortunately, I'm just trying to work this out. So my overall, I've worked out what my offerings are. Okay. I've got my little plan down here. Now we're going to work out Jane's favorite thing, capacity. So when I talk about capacity, there are 2 main things that go into it, okay, for an offering. It is the amount of time it physically takes you to do that offering. So if it's a power hour, that is an hour to start with. But it also, that taking you time to do it is any pre or post work that you need to do. So for me, for a power hour, I usually allocate 2 hours of my time for the physically doing it, because that is kind of maybe back and forth with clients, reading the pre-qualification questions so that I can get a bit of an idea about them, maybe stalking them a little bit more so that I kind of understand what their business is and how I can kind of help them. So, sorry, let me explain that a little bit better for you. So 12 months is a light touch. We're giving you the idea of this is when I'm going to have my big launches. This is when I'm thinking to myself, this is when big stuff is going to happen. 3 months is when I'm literally going to plan each month how it's going to pan out. And you can even go down to each week if you want to, okay? Which I might do just to show you guys. So it's much more like 3 months is working out literally how many hours I have already committed myself to and how much I then potentially can take on for other work to allow me to figure out, okay, what kind of offering can I put into the world? What do I need to focus on to try and hit my income goal, etc. Yes, so 12 months is your bigger picture. 3 months, we're really zooming in to go, okay, this week for the next 3 months, like this week, this is how many hours I'm going to have on each thing. Okay. So for me, if we do this on a weekly, on like a weekly basis for each of my offerings, or per offering, You guys in the sales pack probably takes me, so if I go each week, there is a masterminding call, and that's 3 hours. Let's not beat around the bush. We usually go masterminding for about 2.5 hours. So we say 3 hours for masterminding each week. And then I spend roughly 3 hours, like 3 to 4 hours a week in Discord, answering questions in the Facebook group, kind of just generally chatting. So if I say that takes me 6 hours of my time. My strategy program, this is just in like physically working in it. Okay, I'm not promoting anything. We're just going, so this is working on the offering, i.e. committed time. So stuff that I already have in my diary that I physically cannot get away from. I love you guys, but I can't get away from you because you pay me, so I need to be here. So the strategy program, I do 1 hour of live a week in my strategy program, and I also probably spend about half an hour or so just doing bits and pieces. So we'll say 2 hours for that as an overestimate. Okay. I then have my one-to-one clients, which I have usually a one-to-one call with them each a week, which is 2 hours, and then probably the same again, if not a bit more. So I'll probably say 5 hours for my one-to-one stuff every week, minimum. Okay? And that is all I currently have as my committed time, my committed capacity. Now, if my overall capacity is, I was about to say, I want it to be 20 hours, but let's be realistic. It's more like 30, maybe even 40 or 50 hours, because we all know what I'm like. 30 hours. Then for other stuff, available time. Ooh. So the 6 months, I'll come back to the 6 months, Svetlana, just to let you know. It's, to be honest, all I do really for the 6 months is just put a couple more things in there, just to make it a little bit more formal, but I'm gonna jump back up afterwards and do 3 months first. So my available time is 30 hours, minus the 6 for the pack, minus 2 for the program, and 5 for that. So I've got, oh God, this is where you realize how bad my maths is. 17 hours. Is that right, Jane? 30, so 24, 22, 17, yeah. So I've got 17 hours available each week, right? That isn't committed to clients that I spend that I'm like, I have to do that work for each week. I have 17 hours, okay? Now, if I assume that I also, out of my 30 hours, I need to actually do business as usual stuff. So I need to do some sort of admin, I need to post on my socials, I need to keep my Facebook group happy, send out emails, just not promoting too much like a specific offering, but just generally keeping everything ticking over. I don't know why I've started to type in the chat, there we go. My business as usual hours is normally 20%. So I usually say to people, it's about 20% of your weekly time will be spent, should be spent just running, like doing your business stuff, okay? Now for me, that's a bit much because I don't do my accounts every week and I don't, do all those boring things. So I'm gonna allocate 4 hours for that, okay? So now my available time, yeah. Admin, marketing, like general marketing, so social media posts, going live on my wall, bits and pieces, like each week, that should be higher. I'll make a commitment that I'm going to make it 6 because I should be doing more hours on my, like doing lives in your Facebook group, just constantly promote chatting to clients, going in other communities, Discords, so not just the pack Discord, but in BBS and all the other ones that I'm part of, that sort of time. Okay, so now my available time is 11 hours. Yes, most people do, Jane, because so when we're still building stuff, and if we're trying to like we want to build that client base, the amount of time that you spend on your business is going to be higher than the amount of time that you spend in it until you get to that point. So when I talk about 20% time of like business as you like running your business, then I also usually say about 20% growing your business. So creating new offerings, putting new promos out, running challenges, etc. Is about 20%. So your client time is usually about 60% of your time. And that's what you want. That's what we want to try and aim for, to then work out that if I'm spending that 60% of my working time with clients, that's then how you work out how much you should be charging them based on what they're getting for you. Because if you're working that 60%, but you're only getting 50% of your income goal, your prices aren't high enough. If you're having to work 120% of your capacity to actually hit the revenue goal, then you haven't got any time to actually work on your business, produce new things, look for new clients, etc. So as a result, then you need to think about upping your prices so that that capacity then reflects better to the amount of money that you want. Okay, because there's only two ways you can grow your business in sales. You either increase your prices or you increase your capacity, or you do both, obviously. But that's it. If there's only one of you, the only way to grow your business is to up the amount of money per transaction that people are paying you for. Okay. So I now know that I have 11 hours every week that I can fill with additional work. Okay. So I'm now going to look at my other offerings. So I'm not launching my pack. Okay. Or if we're thinking of like December, for instance, because at the moment, January, I'm running a challenge. December is probably going to be promo. So those 6 hours might be a little bit more, but I can probably accommodate it because I know that before a challenge, I'm probably going to want to try and up the amount of money, like the amount of hours a little bit to try and drive more people towards that challenge. I think it means I have 6 hours left in any week that I have a foundation booked in. Cool. Okay, 6 hours, you can do a lot in 6 hours. You'd be surprised the amount of stuff that you can fit in there from a business growth point of view. A lot of time, like you can fit a lot in that time. Okay, so if I'm now going, how am I going to utilize that? Well, so I've got my mastery calls. Now they're 90 minutes, so we'll say 2 hours per call. Or per session, whatever you want to say. Say I wanted to run a masterclass, for instance. Well, that's maybe an hour. We'll say another, say again, that's 2 hours, like per masterclass. If there's an ebook or something that I've got, so say I wanted to throw out into the world. So sorry, when I say masterclass, I mean a live masterclass. If there's something that's already available, then obviously that doesn't take any time for people. Like once somebody buys it, it physically doesn't take me any time to then kind of do. You know what I mean? Like it's all automated, it's all there. They just get it and they're happy, and happy as Larry. I think my week's only time. Yeah, Carol, they probably do for you, honey. For a lot of us, I get that this might be a proper head fuck and it's difficult to sit and try and work out, but this is how I do it. It's really like you have to sit there and kind of think, okay, how much have I already committed to? So how much have I sold that I physically, like if I don't do that, people are going to get pissed and I'm going to lose money. That's the important thing. Then I work out how much time I've got left. And then I work out how much of that time can I allocate to new client work. So physically bringing money in. Okay. So those are the only ones that will take up time. If I decided that I'm just gonna write a bit more actual things. So this is time to physically quickly do the work with the client. Okay, now we're going to work out promotion time. This will be such a new, awesome exercise for me, time to crack out a notebook. I love a notebook. I will say, if you're going to use a new notebook, scribble it down on a bit of paper first and then write it up in the notebook, because I'm really precious about my notebooks. I don't like, actually, Amanda's got one that she just scribbles in, and she's dedicated to it being her scribbly notebook, and then she's got nice ones as well. So this is my nice notebook, and I have a horrible notebook that I probably, well, I have random bits of paper that I randomly scribble out. I need to figure out what I'm able to do after gym trainings every day to try to do anything brain engaging. Yeah, that's the other thing that you need to think about. So what I haven't covered here is that this 30 hours is me saying this is work time. That is how much I can allocate each week to work. So for some of you, if you've got kids, if you've got outside commitments, etc., that will be smaller, or it potentially is smaller, because you can't allocate as much time. Okay, you physically can't. So the amount of hours that you're working with is smaller, but the calculation is still the same. You then still have to work out how much is your available time of that you already have. So then from a promo point of view, I can go, well, regardless of what I'm promoting, it's probably going to take me a couple of hours to put them out there. Okay, so if I decide to, Bojo is a bullet journal. They're amazing. I haven't got one, but I really want one because Alex is obsessed with them and hers is gorgeous. Let me have a look at what we got. Amanda's got some good ideas. She always has good ideas. So where are we? I'm not so precious about fucking it up because that's what it's for. Yeah. I love the fact that you've literally wrote it on the front of your journal, Amanda. That's brilliant. You can use any notebook as a Bojo. It's all about the system. Yeah, I know, but all of the ones that I've got at the moment are really pretty and I don't want to ruin them. So I need to buy another notebook that I can then turn into my Bojo. Yeah, anyway. Jade's got a brilliant, like Jade's Bojo is like A3. It's just like, I just need to scribble on everything. I have also been known, Alex Oldhouse, when I did some of these exercises with her, rather than use a notebook, she actually got brown wrapping paper and wrapped her desk and just scribbled on the desk, because apparently it was then a lot more free and she could just kind of like chuck everything down. Designate a pretty one as my fuck up one. No, Amanda, I need to buy another one. Don't be silly. Don't stop me from buying journals. If I want to buy another journal, you need to facilitate this habit, not stop me. Okay. Rather than carry on talking about journals, because I can literally talk about that all week. Is the capacity so far making sense? Do we get how I've got to this point right now? Have we got any questions? Because I don't want to keep going and confuse everybody. Yeah? Yeah. Okay, it makes sense. But Charlie's like, but I'm now waiting for it for the but to come through. I get confused. Okay, what's confusing? Help me to help you. Several jobs, right? I get that. So if you've got more than one thing, they are essentially, if you think about it, the capacity that you have for those jobs. So each of yours up here will be each of your jobs. Okay, so if you've got 3 different jobs, then you'll have the 3 different things there. So for me, I think to myself that, so I, very similar to Carol, I genuinely do have a different journal for each job. So I have a blue one. So this is my sales pack one. Everything for you guys goes in here. I have another notebook that I use for the program, and I have a notebook that I use for my one-to-one clients, just to try and keep things separate, because otherwise it all mashes into one and I can't freaking function. Yeah, okay. I get it. It gets messed up. How do you deal with the dance business too? Me, it's just best not to ask how I fit everything into a week, if I'm brutally honest. I am not a good example of how to make things work because I just work more. It's not good. But yeah, the other thing, if you don't want physical notebooks, is you can do the same with like drives. So when you Google Drive or Evernote or whatever, have different folders for different things. It's just about trying to compartmentalize stuff so that it's easier to separate things. And then overall, so your capacity, you then go, okay, that you have one file that says this is how much, like this document, for instance. So I normally have a spreadsheet, because I like spreadsheets. Me and Carol like spreadsheets, where I can fill in this number of hours. Like you could literally go down to that granularity if you wanted to say so say you've got 20 hours a week that you're allocating to work, you can have 20 little squares and you colour in the squares different colours depending on what job it's working for. And that can really, really help if you go if you want to go all that way down. I don't plan that much of my time because I get very restricted by like this hour on this day I have to do X. That's not how I work. It doesn't work with my brain. But for this is more about trying to work out how much time I have free so that I can work out what offering I should put into the world to make the most money from it. That's what I'm trying to do with this plan, okay? What if you don't have much committed until you actually make the sales? You assume that you've made them. Okay, so for the committed time up here, this is stuff that's money in the bank. Okay, I have to do that because I'm getting paid, or it's committed, and if I don't do it, I won't get it, like I can't invoice for it. Okay, now when we're talking about the available time, this is when you then have to assume they are going to get, I'm gonna make sales and I'm going to make money from this sale, okay? So unpredictability. One thing I have to accommodate is the unpredictability. See, I did say it the third time round, of scheduling funerals in my week. They're always variable. Yeah, I get that, and that does make it difficult. But right, let me work this bit out, because I think this hopefully will then try and show you what to do. Okay, so if I then, we'll just put the promotion time into these. Okay, so 2 works per call plus, that's what it looks like. It looks like my time is free, but if I sell it, then it's not. And then if I sell too much, it's really not. Yeah, and this is where we're trying to work this out, okay? So we're trying to work out how many, if you sell them, that is how many. Then once you get to that point, you stop. You don't take any more on. That is your capacity over. The next month is when they can book things, okay? So at the moment, I'm focusing on my December rather than, so I've not got anything else in. If I was doing it for Black Friday, then I'd have to take a week out of that, because that 1 week is Black Friday allocated. And for my 5-day challenge, again, you need to take the time out beforehand for that launch, right? So at the moment, I'm just trying to work out the numbers so that I can start to plug them into a plan properly, right? Oh, sorry, Julie. I think 4 p.m. from France. Oh, sorry, my love. Yeah, the Zoom will automatically make it the right time for you. Or it should do. In the calendar, it's set so that it should automatically put it in at the right time for you guys, depending on where you are in the world. Sorry. Segment as much as possible. Yeah. If I were Natalia, I would be color coding my different jobs. Yeah, big wall planner, number of hours per day or per week, depending on how you want to run it. I love color coding stuff. No worries, Anna. I think the brutal truth is I don't have enough working hours, so somehow I need to create offers with less time. Yeah, probably. It might be that, which is why we then go for things like, so when you're looking at your capacity, okay, now you see here that a mastery call actually takes the same amount of time. If I was to only sell one, okay, we're going to assume you only sell one, my mastery calls take the same amount of my time as a live masterclass does, okay? So this is where you start to then think of it. Well, if a mastery call is 349, but a workshop is 47 for 20 people, then that, I need to get a calculator because my brain's not that good. So that then becomes the income for each of those, if I assume that that's what we're going to play with, just as random numbers, okay? It could also be that I wanted to put another one-to-one client in, and I could then turn around and say, oh, well, I'll take another one-to-one client on instead, because the income for a one-to-one client per week, that would then be 5 hours or 3 hours. So we start to work out, okay, well, how much am I, like, which one of it am I going to make the most money out of? How, if I was to utilize an hour of my time, or in this case, 4 hours of my time, I'll make that 4 just so it feels a bit more the same. Then I can make the decision as to which one's going to bring me the most amount of money in. Now, realistically, masterclasses potentially could bring you in more money per hour than one-to-one calls. And that's because you are going from 1 hour with many clients rather than 1 hour to one client. So for Jamie, for instance, running a whole, like a 1 hour session for an individual person, there is a ceiling for how much that you could charge for that. Say, I don't know, I'm going to pick a number, 50 quid, just as a random thought. But you could run a group class for an hour with 10 people and charge them 30 quid each and make £300 for the hour. So it's about utilizing your capacity to bring in the most revenue. And when you're starting your business, the majority of us, from a service-based point of view, we have to start with one-to-one, because that we don't have a massive audience. We can't kind of command a group program with 40 people on it or something, or even masterclasses with lots and lots of people on. And then as that audience grows, we start to slowly bring things down so that you can maximize the income for your capacity. And that's why I try and make capacity such a big thing in our thought process. Does that make sense? Give me a yes if that makes sense. Yeah, Jane's nodding, but give me a... Jamie's smiling, so that's what it, but I can't see everybody, so yeah, cool, okay. Does it really only take 2 hours for a masterclass? Is that just delivery? It's not creation. That's assuming that it's a masterclass that I've already done. So if I wanted to launch my Power Hour masterclass, for instance, and I wanted to do it live, I've already done the slides, I've already done the work, so I could roll that out tomorrow, I could start promotion and run it in 3 weeks or something, because I've already done it. If it was a new one, then I would have to add in the amount of time that it would take me, but that would be in this bit. Oh, wait, yeah. So for every offering that you have, there is 2 amounts of time that you need to think about to start with. The amount of time for creating it and promoting it, so pre-sale and then post-sale. So you'll have the amount of time it takes to do it and then the amount of time to actually deliver it. And the first time that you run it, that number will be higher, the combined number will be higher. And then if you run exactly the same thing over and over again, then the amount of time it takes you to promote it and to get the numbers in will reduce. You don't have to write the slides every single time. So it's just the delivery time. Okay. It's another reason why I say service businesses should do power hours, because the amount of prep time for power hours should be very, very little, because it's all about actually having a conversation with somebody. The same with doing a one-to-one stretch class or a one-to-one Pilates session. The actual discovery and talking to your client and having those conversations should be during that one-to-one session, not before. There's some pre-qualification questions just to check that they're not, you can actually help them, and that, you know vaguely what you're going to talk about, but they're paying for you to sit and do that work with them at the same time. Okay, really brings it home. Need to create group masterclasses. Yeah, masterclasses are a great way, but to get to that point and to get that information, that's why the power hour training says do the power hours, get that feedback, get that information of what are the routine questions that people are asking you over and over and over again, and then that helps you create the masterclass content. Because then you can say to people, look, you can come and do a masterclass, it's cheaper than buying a one-to-one session with me, but I can guarantee you it'll answer 75% of the questions that you've got, because all of these people beforehand have had exactly the same questions. Okay? Right. I appreciate this is all over the place, and I will make you some proper notes and like slides or something to try and make it work. But this is how my brain works when I'm planning. Okay, 10 years experience of working on types of clients. So do I need to go with the power hours? If you know what they already ask, then just create a masterclass and go for masterclasses. If you want to, try it. There's no harm, because you pre-sell it. You release the date, you see if people buy it, and then if people buy it, then you do it. But I, to be honest, I do both, or I will do both, but alternate them. Don't try and do them at the same time, because otherwise people will get confused and they'll just go for the cheap option. They won't go for the more expensive one, which is maybe what they need. But one then leads into the other. So the masterclass then leads into a power hour. Okay. Right. So I've worked out my different times. So now I'm going to separate this into week 1, 2, 3, and week 4. We'll just assume that it's 4 weeks per month because it's easier. Why is that not working? Okay. Just going to do that. Being a pain. I'm going to assume that my 5-day challenge is going to be in week 3. And then I've got week 4. Okay. So I know that I've got 11 hours on top of the amount of time that I've already got allocated. So now I'm going to work out what I want to do. So I'm going to say that if I've got 11 hours a week, then potentially, no worries, Gillian. With power hours, okay, you'll do a load of promo, but you will hopefully get more than one booking per promo. And the same, so if you were doing, so Julie, for instance, if you're gonna do a bundle, for instance, okay, so very similar for product-based businesses, capacity is even more important sometimes, because if you're creating things every single time, you need to know how long it is going to take for you to create something. But a lot of your capacity will be before somebody buys it, because it will take you, say, 5 hours to make a piece, and then once somebody has purchased it, it will only take you, say, an hour to print the labels, put everything in, like package everything nicely, print, like post it, etc. So it's the same principles, but it's the other way round. With product-based businesses, if you are making things and then selling them rather than making things to order, your capacity will be before, rather than like it or for you because it takes a long time, because you actually care about how you package things. You're not Amazon, you don't just chuck it in a box and throw it in the post. It's about making sure that you know what that capacity is. Like, am I going to make new things this month, or am I going to try and push to just sell what I already have? So then your capacity is all about how many items can I package every month? And that's how many you aim to try and sell. Yeah? She's nodding, so I'm going to say yes. Because I can see you now and the amount of people. Okay. So now when it comes to literally planning my weeks, what I will do is I've got, right, Black Friday, the week beforehand, I'm probably not going to try and do as many paid calls because I'm going to want to do some hours of prep for my Black Friday stuff, not just promoting that. So if I've got 11 hours, I'm going to assume 2 hours of promo. So I'm just going to use mastery calls because it makes this easier rather than start chopping and changing just to start with. Does that make sense? So calls, I've got 2 hours promo, and then I'm going to assume 11 hours. I'll just make it 10 so it's easier. 8 hours of calls. So that means I have the capacity for 4 sales mastery calls. Simple as that. So my aim to fill my capacity, if I'm only doing power hours, is to try and sell 4 calls a week to fill that extra capacity. But it could be that actually I want to do, or say aim is to sell 4. I don't want to sell more than 4 because then I'm going to start going over the amount of hours that I want to be working every week. I can make the decision if I want to, because if I'm going to be making $350 from an extra hour or 2 hours work, but based on me only working 30 hours a week, I only have the capacity to take on 4 mastery calls on top of what I already have in my diary and I already have committed. And then the next week, I might decide to run a masterclass instead. So I might say, okay, well, I'm going to do 2 hours of promo and only take on 4 hours of calls. So that's 2 calls. But then I'm also going to put say I'll do a masterclass that week as well, which is the 4 hours total. Okay. Just see how I'm kind of then using those numbers of how many hours each of my offerings take me to then work out what I want to do each week time-wise. And that's my goal then, is to try and sell that number of sessions each week. And to start with, it will be different. Start with, it will be difficult. Yeah, so for Magda, that's completely up to you how you want to do it. I personally have allocated 2 days a week when people can potentially book them in, because I like my Mondays and my Fridays tend to be pack and one-to-one client days that I focus on, and Wednesdays are my like strategy program day. But it could be that you just whack them all in one day. I would not advise that at all, because power hours take a lot of my brain time. I tend to recommend not taking more than 2 on per day, so that actually fits perfectly with me, because I could take 2 on a Tuesday, 2 on a Thursday. But you might not want to do that. You might want to take on less. Or it might be that actually you decide, well, I'd rather have a one-to-one client because that gives me better monthly income and takes up less hours per week. Same as sessions, not over 2 per day. Yeah. But you spread it out. So if I'm thinking on a weekly basis, I'm not saying, right, I need to do 4 power hours every single day. I'm saying I just need to get it from 4, like over the whole week. Okay. And then this is literally how I plan my time. I sit down and I think, right, this is how many I want to try and do. Now, some weeks it might be that people book in more or they book in less. It might be that now I've realized that actually I don't want to sit and do 4 power hours every week. I just don't want to do that many. So maybe by week 3 I go, okay, well, I'd rather have an extra one-to-one client. So I'll put in, and that then takes 4 of my hours. So I can then only take 2 sales mastery calls to add in extra for that time. Now, I personally would also then go, oh, well, if I don't get 4 calls, like I have the capacity for 4 calls, but if I only get 1 or I get 2, I can use the remainder of that time to then create trainings for you guys, which is what this month is for me. Like I have created a lot of extra stuff for like growing my business. So I know that my November is going to be, I'm going to launch a power hour offering to the world, put that out there. And then I've got Black Friday week. So that Black Friday week is something completely different that I don't need to worry about. I'm not going to be putting promo posts out for my one-to-one, for like one-to-one or anything like that. Then before a 5-day challenge, I'll go, okay, this is a promo week. This is a promo week. If I get in extra work, brilliant. If I don't, the focus is on the 5-day challenge, because if this 5-day challenge then brings me that, it doesn't matter that I didn't have any work of 2 weeks beforehand because I've made enough money that week to then bring something like the big amount in. And then very importantly, that week gets scheduled in. Take the time off. I mean, realistically, that's public launch, but we'll pretend about that. Does that make sense? Of how you then start to break things. Scheduling in a cold. Yeah, it's exactly what it is, Carol. I'm going to be ill that week. So I'll schedule that in now and try not to book any, because then otherwise all I've got to do is just rearrange everything and it makes it a lot harder. What am I doing in December? I haven't decided yet, Jane. There you go. If you don't get that reference, then go and watch Elf because it's funny. It's a good holiday film. And then again, this is like, then it might be that this is what I'm focusing on. So the majority of my stuff, okay, the way that I tend to try and do it is that I have my big offerings, which are things that are like my main stuff. So my program and my membership now, and then in between that, they are essentially filler offers that potentially then either lead into the membership or the strategy program or a one-to-one client. So it's all about then figuring out where they go. So something that I created for you guys yesterday, which I might give you a sneaky look because I've got it in my Google Drive, is my entire flow of the customer journey flow for my power hours. So when somebody books a call, the first email, like the booking confirmation email that they get, a reminder email that they get the follow-up thank you email, my +1 and upsell email, and then a downsell email, all structured so that you can put it into your process if you want to. Okay. Right, let me have a look. Carol says, here's a curveball. I've got no plans to run a challenge. So would my plan just be a bit blah of the same stuff all year? So what I would suggest, Carol, is have a look at what your different offerings are. The only reason that I only have these at the moment is because they're my fun. Like, you could still have a program. You don't need to do a 5-day challenge, but you could do a launch for that program. So where you push it out. I need offerings, don't I? Yeah. It might also be that one of your 5-day challenge or your launches is actually for consultancy client. So you base, okay, I can take on 1 consultancy client per month, And you don't need to do the promo. You don't. The reason that I use 5-day challenges is because that's what I have found for me is a really good way of bringing lots of people into my world, giving them loads of value and allowing them to then buy from me, and then hoping that they buy from me. My stuff feels disconnected. So in what way, Jane? In the sense of like things that are a bit more done for you and stuff that's more do it yourself? Because I know Magda's kind of going down the same sort of route, looking at more do it yourself stuff as well as the done for you things. Or got some very confused faces, or at least looking confused faces. It makes me worry. Am I frying you? Trying to figure out how to unmute.
Thank you.
There we go.
Just because I've got a 5-day challenge, but it would lead really well into the Create a Livable Home mini course stuff, but it's a mini course, like it's 50 quid. So it seems like to do a 5-day challenge to lead into a 50 quid product is a bit of a waste of time and effort.
We won't be doing that. What we want to do is, do you remember when we were talking about the kind of the beefed up version, the bigger version?
Yeah.
What your 5-day challenge would lead into.
Yeah, I just don't have that ready yet.
No, I know. And that's why we were, so one of the things that I'm going to be putting up for you guys is around pre-selling. So what I would always suggest if you're going to do, before you launch into 5-day challenge to launch a program, is to run a program as a beta with a set of people and pre-sell it. So you tell people it's going to start on X date and you drip feed it to them. So you run it more like a group course than a self-learn course to start with, because what that then allows you to do is create stuff as they're going. So as long as you're a week ahead of your clients, that's all that matters. Now, not only does that help you with the capacity point of view, because you're not trying to create a massive, 8-week program or something in between everything that you're doing, you also then can combine feedback. So if people are finding it difficult, if things aren't, like if you've given them loads and loads of work and they're just not finishing it after a week, you can then reduce the amount in the next couple of weeks, etc. Or you can start to extend the program and you can incorporate that feedback so that then when you launch it as maybe a self-learn or again as a group program for a higher price, you've built it all, you've done all the hard work, and then all you have to do is actually run it. And then if it's a group program, it's like, the weekly call or something, or a Zoom or whatever you want to do, or a live in your group. If it's then a self-learn, it's even easier, because it's just a case of here's the platform, here's everything I created during running it as a group program beta course, which is exactly what Natalia is doing at the moment. It's how I did my strategy program. And then I added shitloads because I got excited. Because again, do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, for a 5-day challenge, I would not be selling anything less than like $500 for it, unless it's a membership site, because they are a lot of work. They do take work.
I was thinking of using a 5-day challenge. The reason that I first took Phil Harrison's 5-day challenge course was because I was thinking of using that as a launch vehicle on a quarterly basis to sell my foundation package.
Right.
But it just doesn't, I don't think it leads in very well. I've run it twice. I had really small numbers of people in, and I did get one sale from each one, which statistically was good. Even though it's not a lot of sales, but one was for one foundation package and one was for another program, the Design Your Home Vision program, which I do have, and I have that available, but I haven't tried to sell it since.
Okay.
But I just don't know if I kind of don't know if it really leads in well as a challenge into the foundation package, and if it's the best vehicle to do that.
I mean, we can have a look at that from a like on a masterminding, just like and have a look properly, because what you want to be doing, like my advice to every single person having run 5-day challenges, or like a couple of 5-day challenges now, is that if they don't lead very easily into what you're selling, the ones that I have seen or I've been part of that have just not, they don't seem to have converted very well, is that either the market that they're in is massively saturated with 5-day challenges at the time that they're trying to run it, in which case you need to focus massively on audience growth before you do it to get out of bubbles, because realistically we're all in very, very similar bubbles, especially this group. There aren't many of us who aren't in the same bubbles as each other. So our audiences are very incestuous, being brutal. So if you're running similar things, then you kind of need to break away from that and find the right audience and stuff. But then I also do kind of advocate doing a challenge with a smaller audience to start with, just because it takes some of that pressure off. The last thing I wouldn't, like if you do your first 5-day challenge and there's like 800 people in it, could you imagine the stress level would be off the charts? Like the first one I did, I think there was like 45 people in my challenge or something, and it was like, wow, it didn't matter that it didn't convert, that I didn't get anything, because it was more about running it and doing the back end work and everything. Because the first time you do a 5-day challenge, it will take you a solid month beforehand to plan everything. It's not a quick process, even unless you have Magda in your court or you have a Sush in your court. But even then, it takes time, because you still have to write all the copy for all of your workbooks. You have to do all your videos, you need to do all your email sequences, your chatbot sequence, your sales landing page sequence, the challenge page, sign up copy. There is so much that you need to do beforehand. And I'm not saying it's not worth it. It is 100% worth it. Because once you've done it, it is a repeatable system. So when I do my challenge in January, it will be the same challenge that I ran back in May. I might tweak a little couple of things, but it's not, you know, I don't have to redo everything if I don't want to, because it worked, it converted. The same with the challenge that I've just ran. All of that stuff there is done, it's all ready. It's now a case of just revamping, and going through and everything. So yes, it is difficult the first time round, and it does require more time the first time round, but then it gets easier, and then it, you know, it's so much better everything time around. So happiest creatures on earth are those who can message Magda and get things done. Yes, yeah, everybody needs a Magda or a Sush or somebody in their life that you can go, ah, and they just go and they fix it. It's brilliant. The amount of times that I've tried to change something on a landing page and then been told off by Katie. So if you'd have just messaged me, it would have taken 10 minutes, but now you've broken everything, so thanks for that. I'm like, it's just trying to be helpful. Magda's blushing now. She's like, everyone's being nice and I don't like it. Get used to it. So yeah, the first time I ran a 5-day challenge, I didn't convert at all. I sold 1 power hour, but they were already in the pipeline before I even launched. Because I ran a 5-day challenge and I didn't actually have an offer that I was going to launch. I got to the Tuesday and had a massive panic attack and was like, shit, I don't actually have anything to sell these people. I'm just running a launch vehicle for nothing, because I'd been told to run one to push me out of my comfort zone. So that's why it didn't convert. It wasn't because it was shit, because you've just done the 5-day challenge, so I hope you didn't think it was shit. It converted from both of my 5-day challenges, but just running them was really useful. Yeah. Exactly, they are good if you kind of given you didn't convert from your first challenge, what made you kept going? Just trying to understand what your biggest takeaway from that was. So the first one, I learned so much about running challenges and how much of my energy, so ignoring all of the prep, ignoring creating all of the workbooks and videos and everything, just physically during that week, how much of my energy it would take. And for anyone who hasn't done a 5-day challenge or ran their own, when you participate in a 5-day challenge, Thursday is the day that everybody starts to drop off. So those that aren't engaged, they start disappearing, no one cares. Funnily enough, they always come back for the Friday because they know there's freebies. So they all come back for the party. But when you're running a challenge, for me, it's exactly the same. Thursday is my hardest day because not only am I on a come down from the pitch the night before, I'm also tired because it's day 5 by that point. For the participants, it's day 4, but for you, it's day 5 because you do the Saturday as well. So obviously you do like the live on the Sunday night even. But I also, because I didn't have a Magda or a Sush the first time round, I learned so much about tech. I literally learned how to use ActiveCampaign. I learned how to edit videos because Katie did a lot of my stuff, but I still had to do a lot of it myself as well. So it really was kind of a trial by fire. So I wasn't really bothered that I didn't get anything out of it because I'd learned so much and I'd established so much. And I'd grown my audience because at the time, I think I only had a sales business, like coaching business, for like 3 weeks when I ran my first challenge. So nobody knew who the hell I was. They were still trying to figure out, you know, whether or not you should pay me any money. But honestly, they are not as scary as they seem. There is work, but you don't have to do everything at once. So the first time you run one, you don't have to have a chatbot if you don't want to. You can leave that bit out. You don't have to send as many emails as everybody else. You know, you don't even need videos if you don't have to, like if you don't want to. There is a formula that works very well, but you can build on that. You can start small and then build rather than doing it all at once. Or you can take the plunge and just bite the bullet, you know, arse up, head down, get on with it kind of thing. And see how you get on. So they're not, like the best thing that I found with 5-day challenges is that now once you've done it once and then twice, it becomes a repeatable thing that you start tweaking and you learn which bits work well, which days make, you know, do I need to change stuff, what questions are people asking. The AMA threads alone are super valuable to find out what sort of questions your audience want answers to. So yeah, there's other things. So you can do 3-day sprints. You can do 2-day masterclasses. You can do 1-hour webinars. You don't have to do a full 5-day challenge. And to be honest, Carol, for your audience on LinkedIn, a 1-hour webinar would work probably much better because they're not having to sign up for 5 full days. The target audience, if you've got super busy, like professionals, like CEOs, etc., like managing directors or HR directors do not have time to give up 5 full days for a challenge, but they probably would sign up for a 1-hour webinar. So it's all about how you want to do that. But for me, I'm using 5-day challenges, so that's why I kind of put them in. Just taking 10% of the full-blown template. Yeah, exactly. I get Asana training with Magda, she gave me the full version. Yeah, I remember being handed all the templates for the first time that I worked with Sush, and I just hid for 3 days. I was like, I'm not doing anything. The amount of work scared the crap out of me, and I was like, nope, I'm not doing that. But the other thing, so what I want you to remember when you're so the reason that I work in 3-month sprints is that if I sat and I did this for every single month of the year, I'd hide under my desk and I probably wouldn't do anything because it looks as if there is so much work there. So I split things down. The 6th month, I start to put in a little bit more detail. So I start to think to myself, okay, now if this is my super busy 3 month, and I can go even further than this and go day by day if I really wanted to, but for me, this is enough to sort of go, okay, my focus this month is on power hours. And then I've got a Black Friday, and then I'm just going to do power hours before Christmas, and then a big launch next year, like in the January. Great, okay, now I can work on my plans. It doesn't need to be ridiculously time specific kind of things. So 3-day challenges are okay because I'm in the studio Monday to Wednesday. Yeah, they're all horses for courses, Jamie. Like, if it works for you, go for it. What I would say is that 5-day challenges convert the best. And the reason that 5-day challenges convert the best and you get the best amount of sales from 5-day challenges is because every person in there has the opportunity to interact with you for an entire week. So they build that relationship. The shorter the launch event, the less time you have to build that relationship to convert people. Which is why for high ticket things or for membership sites where somebody is committing for 6 months, etc., people recommend longer sort of 5-day challenges, etc. If you're just selling a bundle or you're selling power hours or whatever, you can do it smaller. You can go for a shorter event because there's not as much buy-in needed from the client. It completely depends on how much of the relationship you need to build before you sell it to them. Let's have a look. What we got? Did so much research and training on making effective webinars a few days back. Can't even do them because they drain my social battery too quickly. Amanda, that's a fantastic little service and help that you can provide for people, though. Just saying. For us people who want to do webinars and things, it's yeah. I think it'd be fine, Jamie. I'd be more into fewer days. Yeah, it is completely about the people. Like, a lot of people drop off by day 3, like, but then not everybody's ready for you to pitch to them at day 2. So it's weighing up either side of it. Could you try creating a recorded one? Yeah, recording works. The only problem with recorded stuff is that you don't get the Q&A element. You don't get that interaction, you don't get that back and forth, which is obviously why lives work very well, because you get that back and forth. Whereas pre-recorded videos, it's very easy for somebody to just be reading off of Google. You don't necessarily have to know your topic, like you can find out things and just regurgitate it. Whereas on a live, if somebody asks you a question, it's really easy to see whether or not that person actually knows what they're talking about. Where are we going? You converted me because you said something during a live video, made me think, wow, she's really good. Wasn't even related. Yeah. Julie, that's exactly, like, most people, you do 5-day challenges because you get to know the people. Like, I can download your ebook, I can download your freebie to find out whether or not you kind of know vaguely what you're talking about a subject. I can even buy a small mini course or something just to test the waters. But there's something about that interaction with people, because so many times in business we forget that people are buying from people. Even if you're a product business, like, I am obsessed with Julie's shop at the moment. The only reason I've not bought everything in there is because every time I go to my checkout, it's like 5,000 euros or something, and I'm like, shit, I need to take them out. Like, I can't wear, like, I wear the same 4 bits of jewelry every single day. So, like, buying more jewelry is not, like, it's a pretty thing. But why do I do that? It's because of watching the reels, it's seeing the stuff on Instagram, it's that interaction with a person rather than just, so even if you're doing products, when you're doing, like, you can launch things, you can still have a launch event for a product-based business. You could do a series of Instagram lives, like behind the scenes videos and things for, like, oh, it's coming up to Christmas, who wants to see the Christmas specials that I've got, who wants to see like, oh, it's coming up for Halloween, let's do a little behind the scenes live with me, kind of like, you know, making stuff beforehand and chatting about why you love it, and different, for Julie, you know, the different types of crystals and different, like, pendant length, and whether or not it's for jewelry or it's for spiritual practices and things. Like, it's about that connection. So doing things is just, it's so much fun, like, and people really resonate with that, and that's how you keep clients rather than just, so I appreciate a lot of the time, I would say probably 99% of the time, I'm talking about service businesses because that's what the majority of people are in here. But there's so much of the stuff from the service side that you can implement in a product business, and you can, you know, all of those workbooks and little videos of like how to, you know, say you bought, wow, I'm off on one now. You know what my brain's like, it's all so Julie's selling a really, really long pendant, for instance, or like there could be a lovely little video of like styling tips and how you can wear it at different lengths and how you can shorten the chain but without damaging your necklace, and you know what sort of outfits they go with. There was this whole thing, right? Please do tell me, ladies, because it's not a situation that I've been in much in my life. When I was a kid, I was pretty much conditioned to believe that all of my wardrobe should go from day to night. I am very, at no point in my life have I been sat in an office and thought, do you know what, I'm going to go clubbing tonight, and stayed in the same clothes. But jewelry, for instance, is something that I want to be able to wear every single day, as well as for special occasions. So being able to dress it up and change it up and things is, you know, could be a really good thing to explore. Plus, I think because a lot of what you do is like the spirituality side, there's so much potential there for adding extra things in, and yeah. Also, you've got an amazing French accent, so fuck it, I'll buy anything from you, to be brutally frank. So I can buy literally anything. And we're like, yeah, Carol, you should check out Julie's jewelry because it is stunning and gorgeous. How to get dressed up for a night out? Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I don't really know. If I'm honest, I just straighten my hair and that's about it. Put different clothes on. That's my version of getting dressed up for a night out. But yeah, the interaction is the invaluable bit. Don't buy from someone through the post only. I need to hear them live. Yeah, to be honest, Eliana, I'm exactly the same. And a lot of people that I've seen their posts and I've been like, oh wow, they know a lot of stuff, and then I've seen them on live and I'm like, wow, you're a dickhead. You know, like, so totally new to this online space. The concept of having to go out of my way to get myself known is all new. Yeah, it's weird. I am still on that same journey. So I get it. Is the first week in December a good time for 5-day challenge? Yes, apparently. Des actually said it yesterday during the recurring revenue support live, that the first week in December is a good week. So potentially, yeah. There you go, Julie. Will you send Carol a link to your shop? So Carol can have a search. She's like, I want it. Right, so from a planning point, we've got waylaid because I've got excited by jewelry and loads of other things. The thing, when you're planning your workload, the thing to remember is that all plans are living, breathing documents. Stuff will change, things will come up. You get sick. Kids decide that they want to be sick, or that they don't want you to work that week. They want to kind of like take that, they want to do stuff. And also by having it as a moving document, so by doing it very similarly to what I've done here, which is just kind of spitballing and thinking, oh, I'll whack that in, and oh, we'll have a bash with that and stuff, it allows you to respond to what your audience are wanting. So rather than just throwing the same thing at them and hoping it sticks, if it doesn't, then you can adapt it and you can change it and you can move things around. The only difference between 3 month and a 6 month is that it's more medium touch. So we're maybe not worrying about really, really specifics. We start to think about you know, giving ourselves a little bit more flexibility to just kind of go, okay, yeah, vaguely, okay, do I want to put in a new offer? Do I want to take some time to plan something else? Like, how am I going to do it? But for me, the two important ones are a 3-month and a 12-month. The 12-month is where you're going, and your 3-month is how you're going to get there. Does that make sense? I'm going to stop sharing the same screen because we've been staring at the same stuff for just ages. You can unmute yourselves, by the way. You don't have to be on mute now if you don't want to. But does that make sense? Has it been helpful, or have I just scrambled the crap out of your heads?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do though.
Yeah, helpful scramble. I'm sorry. Yeah, it seems to be the standard feedback is that I scramble people's heads. I'm like, I'm sorry, like I'm trying. It's just a habit of trying to get yourself into of planning. And the reason that I try and say to everybody, like, to get plans in place and to start, even if it is not fully formed, even if it's just that you are putting things down, is that when you just wing it constantly, that's when there's no repeatability. There's no, like, we can't work out what's going to work and what isn't going to work if we're just randomly throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks. So with 5-day challenges, it's why Des will say to you, you can't decide that a 5-day challenge does not work until you've done it at least 2 or 3 times. Because the first time might have just been, it might have been the wrong time that you ran it. The people might not have been right. It might have absolutely nothing to do with the content. And then the next time you run it, you could convert shitloads of people because it just, everything just aligns. And once you've done it 3 times, then you can start to look at things like your conversion rates, and you can start to plan to say, okay, well, I've done it 3 times now, and every single time I've had a 6-7% conversion rate, or we'll say 5% because it's an easier number for me to work out. So if I want to convert 20 people, then I need 1,000 people in the challenge to make the numbers. Or if I've got a 10% conversion rate and I want 20 people, then I need 200 people in my challenge. Oh wait, yeah, sorry, 400 people in my challenge for the first time around. No. Yeah, that is right. If it's a 10% conversion rate and I want 20 people, I need 200 people in my challenge. If it's a 5%, then I need 400 people in my challenge. So, but you can only work that out once you've run it enough times to be able to say, this is the average conversion rate. Because the first time you do it, exactly the same with Julie launching brand new product range, for instance. You come up and you say, okay, right, I've decided to do something completely different. Julie's going to start selling pink, fluffy, bunny teddy bears, right? Completely different to her brand. It's not what it's looking at. She does it once, nobody buys them. Now, I mean, realistically, it's because it doesn't really fit, and her audience are probably sat there going, why do I want a pink fluffy bunny? No, I want a really nice black, beautiful crystal pendulum, thank you. But to be sure that we know that that is the thing, you should try it a second time, at least. Exactly the same with if you're doing power hours. Putting a couple of posts up for 1 week and saying, this doesn't work. No, take a bit of a breather and try it again. And then if it doesn't work, try it a 3rd time just for good measure. Because putting some posts up on social media is not going to hurt you. The worst that happens is someone gives you money, which I'm fine with. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I quite like that. I quite, you know, kind of like Magda. I like walking around museums and getting Stripe notifications. It's a brilliant way to make my day, especially if I'm not working. So with the 5-day challenges, For you, Julie, it could actually be, if you were to go down, now this might be something that is completely out of your field of vision right now, but it could be that you think about maybe subscription box or like a subscription service so that people can get something every month from you or buy either something from shop, or the create your own jewelry kind of market. So you give people the bits and pieces so that, and the directions to then make their own version of what you sell in line with how they feel. So maybe they have a crystal or something that is very, very special to them, and they want to make it into a piece of jewelry that they can wear rather than just sitting on their desk or just sitting on a shelf or something. So it doesn't always have to be specific to, I'm going to do a launch, like I would not say do a 5-day challenge just for people to go and buy jewelry off your website, because they can do that all the time and we want them to do that all the time. But if we were doing something slightly different, then we could look at how can we make something so that you get more recurring income. I love subscription boxes. I sign up to a beauty one. I don't even use beauty products, and I still get them delivered every month because they're nice. They make my bathroom look good. I call them visitor toiletries. Is that really weird? Does that make me very Monica? Like visitor toiletries. People. So a 5-day challenge that someone's running to create a subscription box. Yeah, they're really good. Like subscription boxes is something that I think are really nice. Does anybody have any questions, or are you all completely mashed? And you can unmute yourself to ask, by the way. You don't have to put them in the chat.
Mashed.
Mashed. I'm sorry.
It doesn't take much. So I'm still, I mean, obviously I still don't have sensible offerings, but the thought of looking at the big picture of a year and then zooming in, has made a lot of sense to me. And I've kind of used the lull. Someone was saying, what do you do in a lull? I've used my lull to try and sort out everything. So the social media plugging, and just thinking I've stopped creating new content for all my sites. I've stopped creating everything because it was just taking up too much of my brain. And it takes a long time for my brain to get back into working. So it's actually been a very valuable year, even if I've not made any money, but, you know, just to sort of zoom into what I want to do and what I can do. So yeah, in that sense, it's been incredibly useful.
Yeah, I think it's, the thing that I would say is if it's still kind of, if you're kind of watching this and going, oh my God, like what the hell, like this is crazy, like I can't get to that level, like granularity, and the idea of capacity is freaking you out and all those things. The reason that I'm telling you it is not because every single person here should be like, this isn't school. It's not like there's no exam, and I'm not expecting all of your strategies and full plans to be submitted by Friday. Like, no. The idea is to just, because these are the things that I have lived and breathed from especially from a corporate point of view. So the reason capacity is so big to me is because my first sales job was for a factory, and in factories, capacity is the most important thing, because it's not like a person. They can't just go, oh, well, it's okay, I'll just work extra hours this week. There is only so many things that a machine can physically make every week or every day. So from a sales point of view, you always have to be looking at that capacity to fill gaps and not oversell something that is already really like sold and stuff. So when I look at my offerings, I know, well, one-to-one clients can be a pain in the hole because they take up a lot of energy. And I know it's easier for me to fill my gaps with smaller things. But then some months I might want to take on a bigger client because I fancy a challenge, or maybe something started to come back down and stuff. So that's why capacity is very big for me. Also because I have burnt out. I have had 2 catastrophic burnouts in my career, and I'm only 32. So that tells you everything that you need. Like, that is corporate sales for you. And I haven't been in it for 2.5 years. So yeah, 2 before 30, that's pretty impressive for most people. But it's why I am so passionate about trying to help people build their business and grow their business within their capacity. Because there are so many people out there who are like, you just need to hustle more, you need to just take on more clients. And that is how we burn out. That is how we don't have a business in 5 years' time, because we're too tired, because we can't continue things. And being brutal, it's how you piss off your clients, because if you're taking on too much work, you're not looking after them. You can't look after them. So if Jamie, for instance, if you suddenly said, oh, well, I'm going to grow my business because I'm going to use exactly the same space that I have right now, but rather than having 6 people for a class, I'm going to have 40. Now, each of those people, they're still getting a pole class, but the amount of time on the pole is tiny, because there's maybe 8 of them per pole. So they're only getting a tiny amount of time there. Plus they're all packed in like sardines, so it smells great, and the windows, you know, it's very hot and the experience isn't there. But you're still charging the same amount of money, and those people are going, hang on a minute, like, why would I want to do that?
Years ago, before I hired another instructor, I had daytime one-to-ones, daytime classes, evening classes, and a dog to walk 3 times a day, and I wasn't even driving. And I was broken, painful and broken. And I don't think I lost any students, but I completely lost who I was, because I was game show host, party instructor 24/7, and I completely forgot who I was for a long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, that wasn't the burnout I've had. I had a burnout when I was competing, but that was close, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
you
it's
don't have to do all the hours. You don't have to catch all the students.
yeah, yeah. And like Carol and I were both saying right at the beginning about the whole, like, you know, putting the suit and putting on the makeup and putting the suit and putting the shoes on. It's fucking tiring.
Mm-hmm.
It's fucking tiring.
Yeah,
And
but
in my old job, I was literally like, it would be a case of the amount of times that I have got changed into a suit and a pair of heels on an aeroplane toilet is ridiculous.
Yep, done that. When it's
And
6
they are
foot
not
tall.
big spaces. They are not big spaces, like you say. Or setting up for an event like a conference in jeans and heels, and jeans and like steelies, because I'm literally moving like big metal things, and then going to the toilets of a conference centre to get changed into a black tie dress and a pair of heels to go to the awards dinner on the evening and things. It's just not like, I'm don't get me wrong, I had bloody brilliant times sometimes, and like, I've been upgraded to business class more times than I should have been, purely so that I can get changed, because I know that I've got a meeting, and so that I can sleep and things. But you don't have to work every hour under the sun to make a lot of money. It's about doing things and looking at that capacity and going, okay, so at the moment I'm being paid X for working one-on-one with somebody, but that one-to-one program, could I run it as a group course and get 8 people through at the same time? Yeah, they're not going to pay individually the same amount as a one-to-one, but they're not going to pay an 8. They're going to pay, definitely going to pay more. Even if they're paying a quarter, you're still making twice as much money as you would do. And then you turn it into a self-learn course, you sell it to fucking hundreds of people, because it doesn't take as much of your time anymore. In fact, it takes less of your time. So you start with the one-to-one stuff, and then you start to grow that scalability. You start to grow those extra, you know, you move it from a one-to-one stuff into a group and then into a self-learn. And then you progress to things like membership sites, where I've got 46 clients in here. There's 46 of you. But on this call alone, there's 10 of you. So for 2 hours, it's 10 to 1, and you're still getting the same content. You have the ability to ask questions and get individual things. It's just utilizing that time to be able to maximize the amount that you're getting out of it. But in order to do that, you need to know how much time you have and how much time each of those things are taking you. So you start with working out. So obviously from a strategy point of view, we start with the who are we targeting? What problem are we solving? Then how do we solve it? So what offerings have we got in our arsenal? And then we look at how does that fit into my daily life, into my working schedule, so that I can maximize the amount. So if Jane, for instance, if you were sat there going, oh, well, I need, so if the conversation we were having is, I need to do 8 fitting or foundation packages, because your fitting call is your discovery call, isn't it, rather than your, yeah. So if you were saying to me, oh, well, I need to do 8 foundation packages to hit my income goal, but I only have the capacity for 4, then the foundation package needs to double in price, because you physically can't do 8. It's not possible.
That's why I think I need to do a 5-day challenge.
Yeah. So we have a look at things and try and
I'm thinking, in fact, like my original idea of 1 5-day challenge per quarter to get 9 foundation packages booked. Like, it seems like a doable thing. I just need to make that happen.
you could, like, I know you could run a course. I know you could. The amount of stuff, it's just getting it out there and getting it in front of the right people. And I think also with a lot of the stuff that you do, there's a lot of people that actually you just don't realize that they can do stuff, and they don't need to be ripping down entire walls and, you know.
Yeah, I think the foundation package with the create a lovable home as a downsell, I think it's like, you know, like figuring out what the sale is, what the bonuses are, those sorts of things, and just going for it. I think that's what I need to do.
Being honest, that's how I ran my first 5-day challenge.
Yeah, this will be my 3rd. The next time I go is the 3rd. So it's just getting the people into it.
Yeah, but then that's promo and utilizing your networks and pushing it out and asking other people to help you and promote stuff. But the reason I did my first 5-day challenge was because I sat on a call with Des in December, joining BBS 3 weeks beforehand. She told me, no, you shouldn't be doing photography full time. You should be doing sales coaching full time. And I was like, oh, okay, this sounds crazy, but fine. And then she went, and you're going to do a 5-day challenge 3rd week in January. And I was like, oh, am I? And she was like, yeah, so figure it out and get on with it. And I was like, okay. And I just went and did it. Because otherwise, I'd probably still be sat there now going, I'll figure it out later, it'll be all right. I'll see how I'm going. But like, sometimes you do just need somebody to kick you up the arse and go, just get on with it. But what is the worst that happens? So my first 5-day challenge was a complete and utter failure. It had a 0% conversion rate. I did not make any money at all.
So how did she get you from ballet photography to sales? How did that conversation happen?
Basically started along the lines of, so what's your background? And I was like, oh, well, I worked in corporate sales for 10 years and, did this. She was like, all right, what sort of thing? And I was like, standard coach, but she says she's not a coach, she bloody is, but she knows all those lovely leading questions that just end up going exactly where you want them to go. It's just funny because I just wrote a lot of training about that. And I sort of explained back, like, oh yeah, I was an engineer, worked for Siemens, then moved into bid management and into sales and stuff, and then ended up crying on the call because I told her why I left my job, like what had happened when I left corporate. because at the time it was still quite raw. It was still only about a year after I was going through it. No, I wasn't. It was about 6 months after the court date and stuff. So it was still like, we're still kind of recovering from it, like mentally. And it also didn't help that it was midnight and we'd been on a call for 6.5 hours by that point. And
Oh,
I
it
was
was
like,
that one.
it was just for the annual, it was for her new annual members. It was like the bonus that she put on for it, for that intake. And she was like, you should do that. And I was like, oh, well, you know, I've been going to a couple of masterminding sessions and things in like other networks that I was trying to get photography work from. And I basically was just giving everybody free sales coaching on these calls, like these masterminding calls for another network. And I'd already been to a couple of BBS mastermindings just because I was bored and didn't have anything else to do, because the world was in complete lockdown. So obviously I couldn't go out with my camera, like I was confined. And she was like, no, this is what you should be doing. Like, why, like, don't stop dance photography. Like, if you love it, that's fine. You can still do it. She's like, but this is what you should be doing. And I was like, okay, like, I don't believe you. Like, I don't think like, why would people want to pay? Because what everybody forgets, and I am constantly reminded by other people, is that you are very, very good at what you do, and you forget that not everybody else knows what you know. So, like Magda, for instance, with tech, something that is just complete and utter second nature to you, that you know, someone goes, oh, well, how do I do this? And you go, well, you just do it like this. To them, you have just blown their mind. You've just given them something that they would not have ever thought of. You know, like if you gave me the individual components of any of Julie's jewelry, it would not look even vaguely like what hers look. It would be, I'd probably take a hammer to it, to be brutally honest, because I'm not patient with stuff like that. Like, I couldn't design a house. Well, I mean, I did design and communication when I was 8, but that is about the level of architecture experience that I have, so that's not going to help. But like, every single one of us have skills that's why we started a business, is that we're good at something that other people aren't necessarily good at. And you need to be reminded that when you're in your zone of genius, you forget that no one else is there. Other people aren't there. They need that help. And that's what you do. And I basically got told that repeatedly every week. And then I
Believed it.
do this. So.
Yeah, that was one thing that I always got told. I was so good at training because I could remember why or what it was like the first time somebody put a computer in front of me. And I didn't assume that everybody else could do it. And I kept that. So apparently that made me good at it. So
Yeah. And Eliana's completely right. Sometimes you need somebody external to tell you. Because we're all very, you are your own world at the end of the day. Like you live and breathe everything that you do. You forget about other things. You don't see all the time those skills that you have. You don't see things that you're very good at, because to you it might just be a passing comment. But to somebody else it's ridiculous. Like the amount of things that Amanda comes out with, that I sit there and I'm like, you know, but to her it's just, oh, it's just a little comment on a Zoom call. But it's not. It's completely changing for somebody else. So you do need sometimes to just be reminded by people and somebody else to turn around and say, no, that's what you should be doing. And I'm so glad she did, because now, like, I couldn't imagine my life without this now, or this membership or anything. Like, I genuinely am like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, it's weird.
no, I couldn't quite work out how the conversation had got to that point. I knew it had happened. She'd mentioned it before, but not you, you know, didn't name you, but said about the 6-hour call and stuff.
Yeah, 6.5-hour call, first week in December, and then 1st of January, I completely changed my entire Facebook and went from dance photography to sales.
Awesome.
I mean, I wouldn't advocate balls out working for 9 months, but you know, for me, this is not balls out working. I hate to tell you, like, because, well, I mean, Carol, you know what it's like, and anybody who's ever been in the corporate sector, like Jane probably is exactly the same. There's a bar that most people are like, this is the normal level of working, and then you forget that that even exists, because that's just so far below the amount of hours that you are putting in and working constantly that sometimes you just forget. So,
And also my corporate working finished over 20 years ago, and I know things are very, very different nowadays, but the roller coaster that I was on, I was getting off a plane and going straight in to a training course, to take a training course on, whatever, Access or whatever. And then of course you had to go and do all the schmoozing later.
mm-hmm.
And there was one night in Hong Kong, I didn't get back into the hotel until 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't remember the night, but then I had to go and teach a course at 8:30. But I was young enough to cope with it. And, no wonder I burned out.
She's horrified. 70 hours a week. Yeah. And 70 hours was probably some of my quiet weeks sometimes. Like if I was traveling, the amount of times that I'd leave Newcastle, I think the Dubai flight's at 1 o'clock in Newcastle. So I'd be at the airport at 10, and I'd have my laptop out at the airport and be working from the lounge and stuff. And then I'd fly from Newcastle to Dubai, and then Dubai to either Perth, or if I was really lucky, I'd go Newcastle to Dubai, Dubai to Singapore, Singapore to Brisbane. So they're all 7-hour flights, which is just lovely for not being able to sleep.
I've done that flight.
Yeah. And the worst thing about the Brisbane flight was that you would get in at something like 10 o'clock in the morning. So it meant you could have an afternoon meeting. So I'd literally be traveling for 24 hours, get off of a plane, put a face of makeup on, put a pair of heels on, and walk straight into a full negotiation meeting with lawyers, like the full works. And then the worst bit about being in Australia was that when you got back to your hotel on an evening, all of your clients from the UK had just woke up and just started work. So they would start emailing you and be like, oh, so this is happening and this is going wrong and can you do this? So you'd be up until like midnight on your laptop working, and then back up again, usually about 5 o'clock, to be on the 6:30 a.m. flight from Perth to Karratha, which was always lovely. But yeah,
Yeah, mine was more doing. It was teach them how to use it in the daytime and then support the installers overnight when things didn't work. And that's where I met my husband, and we both worked, I think it was in Lyon, literally firefighting because the server caught fire 3 times.
Wow. Like firefighting, like
literally firefighting. And then go in the next morning pretending everything was all fine and cool, but we'll be using a slightly different system today. And while he slept. Yeah, but then I was only doing that because I knew what I was doing, whereas most of the other trainers didn't. They just literally came in, read from a book and left, but I knew how to install as well, so I did put it on myself. But yeah, but it was an awfully long time ago, and I know that things are so different these days and even more intense, I think.
But like the one thing that I will say is that I would not change it for the world. Like as much shit as that especially at the end that I went through.
Oh, it was good fun.
Pardon?
It was such good fun.
I mean, yeah, it was always fun being able to message all my friends with photos of me lying by a pool in Perth or something and be like, like I'm being paid for this. But yeah, it's one of those things where like it's just why I'm so conscious of capacity, and because I know it is so easy to just keep doing. And I did it for my international sales job was like 3.5 years, like 3 solid years. And then in Siemens, I had like 3 years of travel before that as well, only really to Germany and Orlando, but like still enough to kind of be away. But those 3 years for the software company were intense because I was hardly ever at home. I don't know why I paid a mortgage. Well, I did. My husband lived there, I suppose, but I don't know why I was paying for the mortgage because I didn't live there. But so much of that stuff and so many things that to me for so long were just like, well, that's, how does that translate? Like, I don't get, like, how is that going to happen? Like, how's it going to help? And then now the more I work with loads of different people, the more I'm like, oh, and then this, oh, and you can take that from this bit and that from that pot and that. And that's why it's nice to kind of sit and help you guys, because it's much more interesting than doing the same demonstration of the same piece of software every single week, just to different people.
Yeah, and you also learn what you don't want to do again, and there's a huge power. I remember when I first left, you say corporate. When I refer to corporate, my corporate, I actually left in '94. So the rest of it, although I was working in corporate, I wasn't corporate. It was very interesting being an outsider and seeing how badly they treated their own staff, and yet were very wary of me. I know that I'm scary. I've been told that all my life. I'm very intimidating, apparently.
Me as well. I'm like,
yeah, and which is cool. I'm happy with that one.
Yeah, so am I.
Yeah. But also it was interesting as an outsider to look in and see how badly they were treated. I heard one guy absolutely explode at his PA for no reason at all. He didn't know I was there. I gave it a few moments and then went in, and you would have thought it was a different person. I actually reported him. He was an ambassador. You don't treat people like that. And yeah, it was funny.
2 hours Zoom call. And I will not be recording that because then it's but yeah, so we're going to sit and chat. You know what I'm like, just sit and chat shit while happening. So is there any questions about anything to do with, like, do you see the difference between the two levels and how you can kind of use them potentially?
Yeah, I need to work on offerings, but I also need to plan my time better. I do work better when I'm not just, oh, what should I do today? So if I have a plan, even if it's a very light level plan, this week is going to be social media spreadsheets, or next week will be this, that and t'other. And yeah, I think even if I can create a plan of focus, for me, that's what's going to work. I'll take it gently, otherwise my brain will explode totally and I won't do anything.
Yeah, take everything gently. But if it's freaking you out or you're worrying about it, then what I would suggest is just something that I will get to you the rest of this week, like hopefully tomorrow, is the audit form that I've kind of pulled together for you. It's just a Google form at the moment, so you guys can get hold of it more like quicker, and then I'll look at making it fancy in a training or something. Zhuzhit, yeah. Because that's the kind of, right, let's write down what is everything, what do I have, like how does it work, and then from that you can then sit and go, okay, that's roughly this.
One question.
And the hours are finger in the wind, like, because promo and like creating a new workbook or something, Jesus, that can be as long as a bit of string, depending on what it is. Sometimes it takes me an hour to write a new training. Other times it takes me days. Sometimes it takes me 15 minutes, depending on how good I'm doing, like, if the flow and things.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
So seems to me as though you need to be clear on kind of what your offerings are and also how you want to launch it or promo it. But so we kind of, and so that's kind of what you've programmed in there, is like, what have I got capacity to do and how am I going to promo it and when, or launch it and how. But then one of the questions you said was, what is your income goal? And so how do you tie that in with this planning?
So what I'll do is pull this back up quickly. Yep, that one. Okay, so if I add in another column here, so the easiest way to then do this is basically what you go is, if you are using an income goal, so if you work out how much you want per month, right, you'll have your, so in the same way that you have from your committed hours, like your committed capacity, you'll have a committed income. So you know that is definitely money that's coming into the bank. So then what you do is you basically go, okay, so if I'm selling 4 mastery calls, then that's 4 times for that week. So that's how much I'm making that week, which is okay. But then for week 2, if I'm only doing 2, but I'm then going to do a masterclass, it's about looking at how, so if I'm trying to get to that, you can reverse engineer it the other way around. So what you could do, I like to do mine of like how many hours I've got and work it out that way. But if, for instance, let's take a completely fresh bit of paper. So if your income target for the month is 10K, it's a nice round number. I'm not saying that that's what everybody should be jumping for before everyone starts panicking. It's just a round number, okay? If your income target is $500 or $300, that is 100% valid. There is nothing wrong with that before anyone panics. So what you could say is that, so if we have, like, say we've got a one-to-one client is going to cost, like, that's going to be 4K. Say I did a group program, I'm just picking random things for this, okay? And say this was 1K per person, and you did power hour at nice round numbers before anyone starts panicking. So this is where you then go, if that is my number, what's the quickest way of getting it? So like, what's the easiest maths? Well, I could have 2 one-to-one clients, which would give me 8K, and I could have 4 power hours. Which would be the 2K. And I've hit my 10K goal for that month. But that is very heavily intensive on your time. So if a one-to-one client actually takes up 20 hours because they're really into, so like Magda, for instance, doing done for you stuff, if it takes 20 hours a month for a certain one-to-one client, then that's a heavy week. Like that's a heavy month. That's lots and lots of hours. So it might be actually, to get to the same point, you could run a group program with 10 people or with 6 people, and that gives you 6K, and you could have a one-to-one client for your 4K. Because the group program probably takes the same amount of time as a one-to-one class. Oh, that's probably a bad example, actually. There you go. Or you change it so that your group program has 8 people in it, and you do 4 power hours. Same amount of income, but maybe less intensive on the hours, because a group program is easier for you to throw out. So you then get some of your capacity back in terms of being able to do other stuff, or not being as intensive. So as I said, one-to-one stuff is the most labor intensive, then group is smaller, and then self-learn is less than that. if you throw a self-learn program in here, because over time that then starts to grow, then all you have to do is sell 10 self-learn courses. And actually that takes up, from a promo point of view, that might be a that might be a 5-day challenge. It's about utilizing the different offerings that you have to try and generate the most income from the hours that you have, rather than just adding in extras. Does that make sense or not? When you think of a pie, there are multiple ways that you can cut that pie up. You can cut it up into lots and lots of little things, a medium-sized, number of big things, or like middle things, or, I read 10K now, I want 10K. Maybe I'm anchoring numbers in people's heads. Working towards it. It's always good to aim high. And yeah, 1-to-1 with a 10K price would easily work. There are sales coaches that charge $10,000 for a 1-hour call. So yes, in theory, you could charge 10 grand a month. It depends on your authority, but yeah, you could get there. Yeah, 5K is just as, like I said, the only reason that I use that is because it's a nice round number and it's a lot easier for me to do maths on the fly. Because I might be an engineer, but I'm still shit at maths. So, but do you get what I'm saying with that? So your income target, you should always be thinking about that, because if, for instance, I'm scrolling the wrong thing, if those 4 hours was only going to get me $200, for instance, but my income goal for the month was 10 grand, then I'm gonna have to do a lot of power hours to make up that 10 grand. It's about trying to utilize different types of offerings so that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. Whereas it's lovely to say, oh, could a 1-to-1 client pay me 10 grand? Yeah, they could, it'd be great. But if that 1-to-1 client cancels or doesn't want to take it on, that's your entire monthly income gone, like that. I like spread betting, personally. Does that make sense? Jane looks even more pissed off with me now than she did 20 minutes ago. I need to go. I hope I'm not going to miss anything, Mega. I'm not missing around. That's fine. No, don't worry, Carol. It's been 2.5 hours, so I am going to let you all go, because also because I have another training at 6 o'clock and I need to go home. So, but does that? I can see how I need to think about new things. 12 hours. Yeah, I get that. I can't imagine that's most fun, but it's just about trying to just thinking about different things, and just remember, you guys, the newbies, they've literally only been here 3 weeks, 3-4 weeks, not even that. So it will get easier, and there's so much, I get it. This is maybe a completely different way of thinking about things to what you've been thinking before. So just give yourself the breathing space and and don't try and boil the ocean. You don't need you to do every single piece of training right away. No, it doesn't. It's all about kind of taking things at your own pace and what you want to do. Some people will run, some people will just want to do absolutely everything and take it all in, but you don't need to. You just do it at your pace and what fits for you. And always ask. I don't bite. Not unless you ask. See see myself as a totally different person. Okay. But bringing people, things together, exactly, so that they hold on to each other. That's fine. Right, you gorgeous humans. I'm going to leave you be because I I feel I've mashed your brains enough for one day, and I don't want to. Is that all right? Everyone happy? Everyone's muted, so I'm just going to go with yes. Everyone's fine.
Yeah, great, really. This was brilliant. My head is about to explode between last.
Yeah, sorry about that.
But that's all right. It's nearly the weekend, so.
It's a pack side effects, I think. Like, I can't help it. I'm sorry.
But it's a good explosion, you know, as I can see now, it's like way over my head. But I think eventually it will get less over my head and less and less and less. I've only been in BBS now for 3 months, and I see the difference already, just being in BBS and doing the classes and, you know, asking questions and doing the training. I don't recognize myself already for 3 months ago. I think, is that? So yeah, give it another 3 months.
It's all good. So they say, is that cheesy cat poster, isn't it? That growth begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Actually, I really like the one that you put, I think it was in Discord, about planting the seeds.
Oh, yeah.
And I sent it round to everybody, including Telegram, WhatsApp, and everybody was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Actually, I said, I wish I could take credit for that.
Take credit. I didn't make it. I found it off of the internet. Somebody else shared it. I went, I need to. But yeah, just take everything at your own pace. Like, if capacity is confusing, start with the training that's already in the pack. I will be doing the sales 101s like training next month, so that we can go through it again, because it is the sort of thing that sometimes you just need to kind of like go through it over and over before it kind of starts to sink. But yeah, if you have any questions, you know where I am in Discord, pop it in there, and then and also feel free to help each other. If it's work, you know, if it's dropped for one person and it hasn't for somebody else, then just like help each other out, because I personally know that I learn when I'm helping other people as well. So I personally find that really helpful for me. So don't think just because somebody's tagged me, don't feel like you can't help if you want to try and help. It's fine. If it's wrong, I'll tell you. Not in a horrible way, obviously, and be like, wrong! But yeah. Okay. Fab. Right. Have a lovely rest of the day. And if I don't speak to you beforehand, have a nice weekend. Okay. Bye, ladies. Bye.